G'day guys, my name's Ben and welcome to the channel, and today we're reviewing the 2020 MacBook Pro. Now this is a new computer that I've had in my life for about 3 months or so, and really the experience has been fantastic. Now I'm actually coming from a 2015 and 2016 MacBook Pro, so this video series is looking at my ownership experience across these 3 separate laptops. Now if you'd like to check those out, part 1 is my review of the 2015 MacBook Pro, part 2, 2016 MacBook Pro, and this video is part 3 looking at the 2020. If you'd rather jump ahead and look at all of these in the one video, I'll leave a link above which takes you to a longer video that covers all these 3 computers in one. With that said, I hope you enjoy this video and we'll kick it off right now. So the 2020 MacBook Pro, I just got this computer a couple of months ago and I thought I'd kind of give it a little bit before I kind of put this video together just to make sure I'm happy with it. And without a doubt, this is the best MacBook I've ever had, and it fixes every problem that the 2016 had, and I'm really happy about it. The only thing it didn't is, as I mentioned, I'm not a fan of that touch bar, and it still has a touch bar, but you do get a few buttons back, which is nice. Now really, the 2020 does have a 16-inch screen, and yeah, it really is nice. Like, you really do appreciate the extra brightness and the extra size. And particularly while we've been working at home in COVID, I have really enjoyed the extra brightness on this screen because I can sit outside and still comfortably read the screen. And because the screen is a little bit bigger on this model, it does get a little bit of a larger footprint compared to the 2016 model, which is the smallest of all 3. The keyboard though is where the magic happens, and this keyboard is a significant improvement over the 2015 keyboard, and that was a good keyboard in itself. I am really excited to see Apple release the same keyboard technology for like their iMac and desktop computers as well, because I think it will be a fantastic option for people. With the exception of those 2 features though, I mean really it is a very similar computer. Like, this one has an upgraded GPU and also 32 gig of RAM, and it really does help the computer perform a lot better. Now, jumping into Photoshop and Premiere and things like that, it's actually doing a really good job with all that editing work, especially with 4K files and things like that, which I was actually a bit surprised on. In fact, you can see this big computer behind me, the PC computer, and the MacBook Pro actually does a great job in keeping up with it in terms of performance. One thing that was a bit of a surprise to me, especially in Adobe Premiere, was I've actually used this PC behind me to do most of my video editing, but occasionally I'll transfer files across to my MacBook to continue work there. And one thing in particular, especially on timeline previews, I found the MacBook does a really good job with them, and in fact can kind of keep up with the PC as well, which was quite a surprise. Now obviously this is a new computer, so I don't want to say the battery is such an improvement over my 5 and 4-year-old computers, but it really is. I can go a very long time without this plugged in, and it really has been great. Now one thing that's a little bit of a shock to the system when you first turn this computer on is this MacBook Pro has the True Tone display, which will kind of adjust the coloring on your screen dependent on the lighting situation that you're in. So at nighttime, for instance, it will give you like a more warmer screen compared to what the other 2 MacBook Pros do. And it is certainly not good for anyone in a creative industry. You know, if you're chasing color accuracy or anything like that, this is not a feature for you. I would really encourage you to turn it on if you're doing, you know, casual browsing on the couch while you're watching TV or something like that. But for any professional work, it is a very big problem. And I think if you don't have your MacBook sitting next to an older MacBook like I do, you might suddenly adjust without really noticing how much different the screen quality is in terms of color out of the box. If you put these 2 screens side by side, it does not take long to see how much more yellow the MacBook is with its True Tone display turned on. And even messing around with the color settings on the screen with the feature turned on, I really can't get it to represent that color that is consistent across all of the other Apple ranges. And thankfully, I did learn you can turn this feature off, and now the MacBook looks almost the same as all the other Apple products, which is great and feels like home. Because that's the thing you get with Apple, right? Like, you get that consistency that you can trust. And you know, when you look at like my 2015 MacBook Pro against my 2016, against someone's iMac, against someone's iPad, that color system and color representation across all those screens is very similar. It's the Apple look that everyone wants, especially in the creative industry. And yeah, opening that lid up on the MacBook, you're like, whoa, what is going on here? So if you do that, don't stress. It's a fancy feature to kind of help give your eyes a rest, but if you turn it off, you'll get that look that you know you want. So while it's not really a review, one thing that I will do here is show you the difference in performance across these computers. So I've actually grabbed some video files from Premiere that I produced for a YouTube video on my Audio Engine A2 speakers. And I've just put this video in Premiere across all of the 3 laptops here. And I'm just gonna do a really quick recording to see the time difference between all these 3 computers, to hopefully see the 2020 show that it's a significantly faster computer. Well, there you go, guys. As you can see, the 2020 MacBook Pro destroys the performance of these 2 computers. But what's actually a surprise is that the 2015 and 2016 computers are almost identical in rendering performance in Premiere. And with that in mind, I really do feel like, especially as a power user across these 2 computers, that the performance between both is very, very similar. So obviously shaving 3 or so minutes off your rendering time is a great thing with the new MacBook, but it's the power that kind of keeps all the other processes running smoother, which is where you'll really start to improve your time. So for example, putting a clip in Premiere and putting Warp Stabilizer on, the MacBook 2020 does a much better job in handling the rendering and processing of that file. Once you run that clip, you don't need to render it before you can preview it, for instance, whereas on these 2 older computers, you had to render everything in the timeline before you could see it without it being super choppy. So in terms of efficiencies, the 2020 is so much better for efficiency across the board. I would highly recommend it if you have the budget to do so. For the off-the-shelf models of the MacBook Pro as well, I don't know why there is no off-the-shelf model that has 32GB of RAM, but if you are prepared to pay the extra, make sure you go and get the 32GB of RAM, especially if you're doing any creative work, because that 16GB out of the box will get eaten up extremely quickly, whether that's Google Tabs, Premiere, Photoshop, whatever you're doing. 16GB is not much for what you might be doing with this computer, especially going forward into the future. So while it is still early days for me, really, with the 2020 MacBook Pro, so far the experience has been great. And I will say, it has been a much better experience at this point in time compared to the 2016 at the same period. So time to wrap up this video on the 2020 MacBook Pro, and overall, as I said, the experience has been great in the months that I've had it so far. Overall, I'm really excited to see where this computer goes over the next few years, but overall, I am feeling very happy about it. Now that said, if you do want to learn a little bit more about the 2015 and the 2016 MacBook Pros, I do have links in the description to those individual video reviews, or once again, if you want to watch a video that covers all of these 3 laptops in one, there is a link at the end of this video for you as well. Otherwise, thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you found this video helpful, please think about liking and subscribing to the channel. It is greatly appreciated, and otherwise, we'll see you around for the next video. Thanks a lot. See ya.